Okay. What a point. So if you're talking to someone, let's say it's not a Christian, not a believer, and they're asking about it or whatever, this is a really hard point for people that aren't about the Bible or Christianity or whatever. But this is something that they would have to understand to really get the rest of the book. But you got to kind of have the whole bigger picture to understand this one thing as well. But this one's really a hard sell. Okay. Not that you're trying to sell somebody on. It's just when you're sharing this kind of thing, you start talking about the Adam and Eve stuff, people get really upset about this. And I really get their point. But it's when you explain to someone that because of what Adam and Eve did with the serpent and the eating of the fruit, the ground was cursed. The planet is cursed. We're under a curse and enmity between the serpent and the female and all of her offspring, meaning us, have this constant battle going on. Okay? And when you explain to these people that we were born under a curse into a bad spiritual relationship with this other entity, okay, that's why we need the deliverance ministry of what Jesus brings, deliverance from this. This is not heaven, okay? And then you explain this to someone, they're like, hey man, I didn't choose to be born. I didn't do anything wrong. Why am I under a curse from what they did way back then? That's a valid point. I totally get that. It's like, whoa, how come all this happens and we have all this? And then they'll come up with, why do so many bad things happen on the planet? Why does God allow this or allow that? This is a bad place. Okay, we got kicked out of the garden. We're in the ghetto now. Okay, it's thug lifestyle out here now. But they don't get this, and that's a really hard. And I don't think you can do this. They have to come upon this themselves. Once they understand, it is a deliverance ministry. Okay, there's a group to get us from the beginning, and it's because of this thing that was done. Yeah, we may not have been here, it may not have been our responsibility, but it is what it is. Okay, and the fact that we have this spiritual battle going on, Ephesians 6:12 and all this kind of stuff, is because of that. Okay, that should make more sense. But let me. I'm going to take this out of the King James because I don't have my ESV. I got to find it. I'm such a great reader of the Bible. I don't know where my Bibles are. Embarrassing. This is Genesis chapter 3. Everyone's heard this before. I'll try to go through it quick. But I'm going to point something out. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Ye hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. He said, Don't eat of this tree. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. Okay, God said, but of the fruit, she says, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God said, You can't eat that one. I'm paraphrasing here because it's getting real King James-ish. She says, don't even touch that or you might die. But she did not say that. She's already embellishing. And the serpent said to the woman, You shall not surely die, for God knows that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit, and did eat, and gave also her husband some of the fruit with her, and he did eat as well. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. And they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God amongst the trees of the garden. And the Lord God called unto Adam and said unto him, Where are you? Once again, I'm retranslating this. And he said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. This is Adam. And God said, Who told you you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree where I have told you not to, and you should not eat? Have you eaten of that tree that I pointed out to you? Adam says, The woman whom you gave me to be with me, she gave me the tree. She gave me the fruit of the tree, and I did eat. And the Lord God said unto the woman, What is this that you have done? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat of the fruit of this tree. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, because now God's speaking to the serpent at this point. We assume this evil devil, whatever you want to call it. This gets kicked around now is what this means. But let's remember it's the serpent. God says to the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. Let's see. Upon your belly you shall go, and dust shall you eat all the days of your life. So we assume this isn't good for the serpent. I will put enmity between you and the woman. Enmity between the serpent and Eve. Enmity means constant hostility, resentment, whatever the case is. It's like, two countries that hate each other, two football teams, soccer, this kind of thing. Enmity between the fanatics of these teams kind of thing. It's not good. You won't want this as your neighbor. Enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. Okay, that's very interesting. One, I can understand enmity between evil and all of her offspring. Us, mankind, whatever, what you want to call it. There's this constant enmity between us and this spiritual being. Okay, even today. But here's something I didn't catch. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between her seed and your seed. Okay? So we have more than one spiritual enemy roaming around there. We got a big group. Okay? So we can assume that because it says so here. Between your seed and her seed. So she has offspring, so does he or it. It shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply the sorrow, and at conception in sorrow you shall bring forth children, painful birthing, and your desire shall be to be contrary to your husband all the time, he shall rule over you. And to Adam he said, because you have hearkened unto the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground because of you. In sorrow you'll eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to you, and you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face shall you eat bread till you return into the ground, for out of it you were taken, for dust you are, and into dust you shall return. Okay. The King James, not the best way to go there when you talk to somebody new. What I'm trying to make. This is a cursed place. We're living under a curse. When Rogan talks about this all the time, well, why does God allow all this stuff to happen? Cancer and things, and innocent people, and murder, and war, and this and that. This is hell on earth. We find joy in it, crazy that way. We operate. In the meantime, it's just kind of like you're eating dinner and there's people dying down the street, which happens every day. It's us. It's how we're wired this way. We can accomplish this. But this is hell on earth. We need to be delivered from this. Jesus is a deliverance ministry. You feel, well, what's a deliverance from? What are we being delivered from? Enmity, okay, hostility between the offspring of Eve and the offspring of the serpent. I'm assuming the serpent is evil, call it whatever you want to call it, Satan, devil, whatever, is evil and is in the spiritual realm. Go back to Ephesians 6:12. We do battle, spiritual battle. It's not flesh. So we have this constant, since the beginning of time for us, we have this constant battle going on between evil and us, because we are of the offspring and we're battling his offspring. So there must be an army of this going on. So we have this constant battle because of who we are with evil. Okay, some of us are losing, we've all had our battles, but anyway, we have this constant battle with evil, and we are in a cursed environment. Gee, what could go wrong here? Okay, so if you look at everything from the eyes, where I've always said everything is spiritual, not just a little of this, everything is spiritual, okay? So if you understand that concept, spiritual evil is after us, living in a cursed environment, and we need deliverance from this. All right? That's where Jesus comes in. That's just a bigger view. But this is a hard, I hate to say sell, a hard sell to somebody who's not into this. Because they're like, hey man, I didn't do this. I shouldn't be responsible for this. And I totally get it. I totally get where that person's coming from. Why you put this on me? I can't put this curse on me. I want no part of this. I'm going to stay neutral. There's no neutral. There's no neutral. If this is all true, you know. But it's, and I totally sympathetic to people that think this way. Because I would have been one of those people years ago, but I always kind of knew something was going on. But how can you put this on me, man? I got nothing to do with this. I wasn't part of this. I didn't make it. That's her decision. Why can't she be held accountable, blah, blah, this and that. And I totally get that. But once you understand a deliverance ministry, what are we being delivered from? Why we need the deliverance? It's because of the evil that we're living with, the evil that has hostility towards us in a spiritual realm, acting in the way that we behave, changing our attitudes, we start behaving evil, and all this sort of thing. And the fact that we're in a cursed environment. Not that that may make it explain it any better, but I really feel for people when you hit them with this and they say, "Hey, man, how's this my responsibility?" I totally get it, and that you got to be merciful when speaking to people about that because you're putting something on them that they don't think they did. But once they understand kind of the cursed environment, spiritual evil after them, deliverance, sometimes they get it. Love you, God bless.